Welcome to Diversity Matters. I am Maria Black, the Hispanic Services Liaison for New Hanover County Schools. In the first half of the program, my co-host, Valida Quattlewan, talks with Jennifer Lagarde, lead librarian for New Hanover County Schools, about the importance of diversity in our libraries. Then, in the second half of the show, we focus on the subject of autism as we talk with Dr. Carrie Wright, autism specialist, and Amber Brantley with Coastal Autism Solutions. So don't go away. This edition of Diversity Matters will get started right after this short break.
Going out like that?
Yeah, why?
Well, what would the neighbors think?
I see you! Come look at Mr. Feather. Look what I have. Mr. Bird, remember? Bark, bark, bark. We're just playing. We're just playing on trying to get you out of here.
Even still.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
And welcome back to Diversity Matters. For this edition of the show, I'm thrilled to welcome Ms. Jennifer Lagarde, who is the Digital Teaching and Learning Specialist and Lead Librarian for the district. We'll discuss the value of a diverse library and the potential it has to impact our students and our community. Welcome, Ms. Lagarde.
Thank you, Valida. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you. And you know, in terms of diversity, you don't think it applies to libraries, but apparently it does. Why is diversity valuable in library science?
Well, you know, one thing that a lot of people don't realize about our school librarians is that they're actually certified teachers. And so diversity is important in school libraries for the same reason it's important in classrooms. It helps us meet the needs of all of our students. Plus, libraries tend to be great unifying spaces in our schools. They're safe places for a lot of our kids. So it's so important for our school libraries to be representative of our diverse populations, not only for our kids to see themselves in the books we have.
Different types of books by different authors of different
Exactly, and that tell the
cultures.
stories of different experiences.
Right.
So that they can see their own experiences reflected in that literature, but also that the spaces reflect them, so that when they walk in, they can see themselves and their story in that library, so that the library belongs to every student in the school, not just a certain group.
Wow, that's really powerful. And why is it that libraries that have the most impact on their communities are the ones that embrace and understand the importance of diversity?
Because their communities are diverse. You and I, we communicate well because we speak the same language.
Right.
And when in a school setting, the library embraces the story, the language, the culture of all of its learners, then they are best able to develop programs and instruction that are going to engage those students and also make a difference for them, not just academically, but socially and in all aspects of their literacy.
And I see in public libraries, I see more and more people there nowadays, that it's still a relevant place. People are job hunting, for instance. And I was just thinking about the history. Can you tell me a little bit about the history of public libraries and diversity? For instance, I remember a time, my grandmother telling me that there was a time when African Americans could not go to the public library.
That's correct. Like all public buildings, public libraries are funded by state dollars and are subject to federal laws. So at times when all public buildings were segregated, so were libraries. But libraries were some of the first public buildings to desegregate and do it on their own, even against federal law. There were libraries in Texas, for example, and Alabama that desegregated and integrated before the federal laws had even been passed. And now we see that public libraries have evolved such from that history to being the place that really links so many of our citizens with the public services that they need. Typically, school libraries, and you can see this right here in New Hanover County, public libraries rather, are on bus lines so that folks without transportation can get there. They provide internet access for free. They offer job hunting services. They offer access to tax tax forms and any other government form that our community members might need. And they also act as like this conduit between the citizenry and other public services. So if you come to New Hanover County and you're looking for a job, but you're also looking for health care, or you need a health advocate, or you need an attorney, or you need any information about public services, the public library connects you. And not just to say it's right here, go there, but they also offer programs that they'll have those folks come to the library and provide access right there on the spot. When I worked at Myrtle Grove, one of the things that we did was we did a family literacy night at the public library at the Myrtle Grove branch. And because a subset of our population spoke Spanish, they made sure that they had bilingual specialists right there on the spot. They signed up folks for public library cards while they were there. And also in talking to the parents of our students, they found out what other kinds of public services those families needed, and they connected them with them. So for school libraries, it's just such a natural partnership, because we know that students who live in homes where parents are literate and have access to public services and read and access to books, those students do better in schools.
Right. So the library is a way to level the playing field.
Exactly. It's an equalizer.
So let me ask you, from your professional perspective, do librarians discuss the issues of diversity and inclusion enough in your organizations? Your opinion on that?
Well, I'm going to say that too much is never enough. I would never say that we're doing it enough, because public schools, public libraries, and our organizations, they're reflections of what's going on in society. And we can see, just open up a newspaper. Do people still read newspapers, Valita? Or access your favorite news source online.
Right.
And we can see that diversity, issues of race are still an issue in our society.
Yes,
so
they are.
we still need to be discussing these things. But I'm really proud of our professional organization here in North Carolina, because the very theme of our organization this year in our state conference is literacy for all, meeting the needs of diverse learners.
Wow.
So here in North Carolina, this is an issue that we recognize is incredibly important, and our organization has tackled it to help raise the capacity of all school librarians in our state.
That's great. And what about here locally? Can you share a diverse related success story that we have here in New Hanover County Schools?
Yes, I mean, I could cite so many, but one that comes to mind for me is really a partnership with our school libraries and our public library here. At Ashley High School, I really have to give a shout out to Joanne Absey at Ashley, who's the school librarian there, and Margaret Miles at New Hanover County Public Library. They have worked together to create a program in which every junior and senior at Ashley High School will receive a public library card. Now, this doesn't sound like that big of a deal. Maybe it's like common sense. Of course they should have a public library card. But what we find is that many of our students, when they go to the public library to get a card, there's barriers. They need a parent's signature. Maybe they owe money from past fines, or they've lost library books when they were in the 3rd grade, and now they can't get a public library card. So this card is only for New Hanover County schools, and it provides every student at Ashley High School, every junior and senior, with free access 24/7 to all the databases and online resources that the New Hanover County Public Library has, regardless of whether they owe money or their parents signed or any of that stuff.
That is great. I would love to see that in all of our schools.
Yes, and you know what? Ashley's been a pilot this year. We're going to roll it out to our other high schools next year. So we're taking it one step at a time, but it's been so successful, and it's really particularly great for our students who don't have access to broadband internet at home, or maybe don't have transportation to get them to the public library. It really levels the playing field for them so that they can conduct research in the same kind of way as their peers who do have access to those resources.
That is so great.
I love it.
I
I'm real
love
excited
that
about it.
idea. So you think about libraries, and you and I know that they're still relevant.
Yes.
But what role does diversity play in helping libraries maintain their relevancy?
Well, you know, I think one of the biggest challenge for school libraries is overcoming the stereotypes. You know, people think about school libraries and they think about old school.
It's old school, it's
yes,
dated, those
ladies with glasses,
cars.
you know, that kind of stuff, telling people to shush.
Right.
But really, school libraries are evolving to really showcase the master teaching skills of the school librarian, because all of our school librarians here in New Hanover County are all master degree teachers. Almost all of them have national board certification.
I never knew that.
We have such a wealth of resources in that library in terms of instructional impact. And So in order to stay relevant, these school librarians have to break those stereotypes. And one of the ways that they do that is by making great gains and successes with all members of their school community, showing that the school library is a place of, not just a place to go get a book, but a place of instructional impact.
Right.
And they do that by reaching all of their members.
Excellent. So I think you're a bookworm like I am, so I have to ask you about a book.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay, there's an author whose name is Scott Page, and he has a book called The Difference, How the Power of Diversity Creates Better Groups, Firms, Schools, and Societies. And this is a quote I'd like you to share your thoughts about.
Sure.
Mr. Page says, when a collection of people work together and one person makes an improvement, the others can often improve on this new solution even further. In other words, improvements build upon improvements. Diverse perspectives and heuristics apply sequentially. One gets applied after the other and in combination. So in his opinion, 1 + 1 often exceeds 2.
Right.
So he's talking about diversity there.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. I think that every time we come to the table to work together, we don't just bring our knowledge, but we
Right.
bring our experiences. And when we get the opportunity to learn from each other, to work with people who are different from us, then the outcome isn't just what we produce. It's that new perspective that we have on diversity and diverse people that we then bring to other aspects of our life. It sends out tendrils. We just don't produce what we do in that one project, but it impacts the rest of our work. And school libraries are a great example of that because it is a unifying space in our communities. If we
Right.
think about New Hanover County and diversity in New Hanover County and the history of diversity in New Hanover County, which hasn't always been positive,
No, ma'am.
and the fact that we still have obstacles to overcome, and
Yes.
how our communities are all continue to be separated in some ways. If we look at our schools, often our classes continue to be separated in some ways. The libraries are unifying spots in
It's
our
that
schools
one place.
where everyone comes together. So when kids get to work together and see not only their stories in the library, but the stories of other people, you can't unknow that. And that knowledge impacts how they act moving forward.
That's so powerful.
I think so too. It's why I love libraries.
I do too. Knowledge is power.
I agree.
And one last question.
Sure.
In terms of diversity,
Yeah.
where are we going in the future? What would you like to see if you were queen for a day?
Oh my gosh, if I were queen for a day, there would be so much I would do. But I think, even though we're talking about libraries of the future, I always harken back to the words of Thomas Jefferson. He talked about information being the currency of the future. And people who have access to information are the richest people and the most powerful people in the world.
That is so true.
So I see libraries of the future, and what I would like to see happen in our district and all over the state of North Carolina is for libraries to continue to move forward, to continue to grow in their support at the county level in terms of their funding and personnel and that kind of stuff, so that libraries can be even more impactful for students and to provide more of the opportunities we've talked about today for our kids. Because I think that the outcomes for that, we don't just see at the school level. Yes, we see it in test scores. Yes, we see it in quantitative data like absences or discipline referrals. But what we don't see, but that is felt later, is how those kinds of unifying experiences impact our greater community
Our
for
society,
the better.
right.
Exactly.
Because we're not sending students to prison. We're sending them
Exactly.
to college and to the workplace.
And in those spaces, they know how to work together to find information,
Right.
And to be not just respectful of each other, but to celebrate and recognize that every diverse voice has something really important to bring to the table.
Awesome. I'm so glad you came.
I'm so glad you asked me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, don't go away. When we come back, my good friend Maria Black will be here with her special guest.
Once they've outgrown their toddler seat, they're still not ready for adult safety belts alone. 4'9" is the magic number. Until then, kids need a booster seat. Make sure your little pumpkin gets there safely. Visit boosterseat.gov.
Welcome to Diversity Matters. Today, I have Dr. Carrie Wright, autism specialist for New Hanover County Schools. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Nice to be here.
Thank you. What is autism?
Autism is a neurodevelopmental disability, typically diagnosed in children when they're between 18 months and 3 years old.
Okay. So is this like related to behaviors then?
Autism is, there could be behaviors in autism. The areas that we look at when we're looking for a diagnosis of autism are deficits in social communication. So that's the kind of back and forth conversations that children have, or playing with their peers, social interactions. Okay. We're looking for stereotyped or repetitive behaviors, and we're looking for sensory differences. So children who have a hard time with loud noises, or children who have a high tolerance for pain, or those kinds of things.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah. When the children come to New Hanover County Schools, they have already been tested, or if there's something that could be observed as the years in school progressed and then evaluated at that time?
Sure, yeah. Some students come in with a medical diagnosis of autism, and that would be diagnosed by a pediatrician or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Some students go to the Teach Center locally, and they receive a diagnosis through the Teach Center. And then sometimes we have students that come into our district that either don't have a diagnosis of autism, or there are missing components from the medical model that we would add to. So we would start an evaluation for those students, and the team that would do that evaluation includes an occupational therapist,
okay,
a speech and language pathologist, and a school psychologist.
Okay, so when you begin observing those concerns, you contact the parent and then go from there and make the referrals for the evaluations.
Absolutely, that's one way. Also, if parents are having concerns, they can call the school and ask for a meeting and talk to the school about their concerns.
Okay. Can you describe the continuum of services offered to students with an autism spectrum disorder in New Hanover County Schools?
Sure. Well, as we know, autism is a spectrum disorder, and students fall along the spectrum, the continuum of the spectrum, all the way from highly impacted, cognitively impaired, all the way up to very high functioning students who are sometimes very bright, or sometimes even are gifted students.
Okay.
So, you know, we have programs that support the cognitively impaired, highly impacted students in some of the SDA programs, all the way up through students who receive AIG services and some resource level support in their general ed classrooms.
Okay, that's interesting. As you mentioned that, it reminds me of one of our students who was in the 2nd grade, but he was diagnosed as autistic, yet his reading levels was at the level of a 5th grader.
Sure.
And I remember having that conversation with someone, and they were like, really? I didn't realize that actually there could be that level of, you know, of progression.
Sure.
So that's, I guess, what you're referring to as someone who could be high performing and possibly receiving AIG services.
Right, yeah.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. Can you describe the Intensive Communication Social Support Program, and where are those programs located?
Sure. The ISCS program, Intensive Social Communication Support Program,
okay,
is one of the programs that we use to support our students with autism, and it is a great program. The students receive 30 minutes a day of social skills training, pragmatics training. We work on emotion regulation, understanding your body, and sensory regulation. And those programs are in all 4 of the high schools. They're in 4 of the middle schools. They're Myrtle Grove, Roland Grice, Trask, and Noble. And then in the elementary level, we have them at Holly Tree, College Park, Eaton, Snipes, and Anderson.
That's great. That's wonderful. Is there anything as we close? This is the April is the month for autism awareness. Is there anything else that you would like to add as we close, as we communicate with the audience on autism?
Sure, yeah, I would like to always encourage parents to come and talk to us if they have concerns, whether your child is already diagnosed or you're wondering about a diagnosis.
Great.
And yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
I
for
appreciate
having
the
me.
great
Yeah.
insight.
Thank you.
Now, don't go away because we'll be right back.
With a runner on first base. Now the big guy comes up to bat, hitting .342 with 92 RBIs and 36 homers. First pitch is out to
Jack. Chill raw and prepared foods promptly. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Welcome back. I am speaking now with Amber Brantley from Coastal Autism Solutions.
Hi, thank you for having me.
How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you
Good.
so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Amber, can you please tell us about the services provided by Coastal Autism Solutions?
Sure. Coastal Autism Solutions provides in-home ABA or Applied Behavior Analysis therapy and services. So we try to work closely with families of children that have children with autism or other developmental disabilities on all kinds of different skills.
Wow, that's great. That
Thank
sounds
you.
really intensive.
Yes.
What exactly is applied behavior analysis?
That is a great question. It is has a ton of research behind it. It's all evidence-based strategies. So basically, we are using the principles of behavior, and the main strategies are to increase positive behaviors that we want to see more. So things like communication and social skills, and then we want to decrease other problem behaviors such as tantrums or maybe aggression or things like that.
Oh, okay.
So it revolves around the idea that the consequences of our behavior affect how we learn and what we learn and the things we'll do in the future. So.
Okay, and is this more for, do you focus on social behavior and let's say behaviors that would take place, again, in the community, within the family, or do you also support those behaviors that are important to, in the classroom, for example, when you get with the students?
Really a wide variety. It really, one of the great things about ABA is that it's individualized and tailored to the unique needs of each child. So rather than a cookie cutter based program, it's really going in and talking each family about the needs of their specific child. So some kids, we do things like going to the dentist and the grocery store and working on strategies if those are the tough things. And some kids were learning to talk or teaching play skills and social skills. And I do work closely with families in the schools a lot of coming with them to those IEP meetings and trying to work alongside the teachers to say, these are the strategies we've had that worked at home. How can we come together to kind of make the classroom and the environment a successful place for each child?
Right, wonderful. And what kind of skills can be addressed and what makes them successful? Why is your treatment, what is that successful?
Well, to answer the first question, we can really address almost any skill, I feel like, a really broad variety, but some of the main things we work on are functional communication skills, so whether it be talking or signing, social skills, getting to interact with their peers, increasing a general awareness of their environment. Kids with autism sometimes start out in their own world, for lack of a better terminology, but just really getting them to experience and engage with their environment and learn that that's reinforcing and exciting. Things like community skills, decreasing any problem behaviors, and a lot of parent training as well. Parent training actually I think is one of the reasons that I find ABA to be so successful. In my company in particular, I like to focus on parent training and helping the parents get these tools and strategies to use outside of therapy sessions as well. And ABA has been endorsed by American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General as an effective treatment for autism. And there's over 30 years of research behind it. So I think,
That's great. I mean, that parent portion is really important because as you work with the child, you know, still they're going to spend most of their time with their family, with their parents. So it'll be important to get them to understand exactly the reason why and how to do this and what not to do. So that's great. That's great. And listen, because it is, of course, as we talked about before, the month of autism awareness. I heard about your event and it sounds so awesome, so interesting, and that's taking place at the airport. And I believe it's called Autism Takes Flight?
Yes. Autism
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Autism Takes Flight at ILM. It's our second year doing it, so we're really excited. We had a successful year last year. The event is taking place on Saturday, April 11th, and families are just going to come and get a chance to basically run through the whole airport experience. It's kind of a trial run of travel. So they're going to come in, get a boarding pass, check their bag, go through security, go to the gate, kind of get to view a plane, and then they're going to go ending up checking receiving their bag from baggage claim as well. So basically going through a lot of those portions, and we build in like wait times and lines and things like that that could potentially be really difficult to hopefully set families up for success in the future. And another unique thing about the trial run is there's going to be myself and other board certified behavior analysts from Cape Fear ABA, the UNCW Psychology Department, and ILM is obviously supporting us as well, to be right there on staff to help families with these tools and strategies as we go through the event.
Wow, that's great. Well, it sounds definitely super interesting. Hopefully I'll get to make it and watch and see how it, you know, how it goes.
We would love that.
Maybe next year we can partner and support you, you know, for the families that English is their second language. Maybe we can partner and provide some support.
Our goal is to grow and expand awareness to the community. So the more this event can grow, that would be wonderful.
Well, that's great. Well, Amber, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. Okay, thank you. Wish you much success on this event and everything else.
Thank you so much.
Now don't go away because we'll be right back.
Every day, online predators make their way into homes uninvited and unnoticed. Help delete online predators. To learn what you can do to protect your kids' online life, visit cybertipline.com.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Diversity Matters. If you would like more information about our school system's ESL programs, call me at 254-4202. Also, feel free to contact the school system's public relations office at 254-4245 about any of the topics discussed on our show today or with suggestions for future editions of Diversity Matters. Until next time, I am Maria Black, and on behalf of my co-host, Valida Quattleban, thanks for watching. We'll see you again next month here on Diversity Matters.